All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a few real people, just like you and just like me. All right, so I promoted this the other day because I like to just kind of mess around with people. This is Departure, Hitch a Ride. It's fantastic. It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. This is bigger than my indictment. Everybody knows it. Um, Anyway, here's the inside of this. This got reissued over on Escape Music, and I would go check it out. Came out like 10 years ago, but guess what? Not too many people know about it. If you like the music of Journey, Foreigner, Glass Tiger, maybe a few other 80s type influences in there, it's just really good. And people should check out Departure, Hitch a Ride. You can order yourself a copy over on Escape Music. I got mine years ago, and I love to listen to it. It goes with me in the car sometimes, and I go, man, these guys are good. How come this didn't break big? Well, because I'm documenting the end, folks. Let's just be honest. This is the end of an era. And part of the charm of what I do, if there is any charm, is the fact that I tell people the truth about certain things that are happening. And Lou Gramm is out there again. And again, let me preface this by saying Lou can say whatever he wants to say. He's earned the right. He should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think he is in the Songwriters Hall of Fame with Mick Jones. But, he's kind of saying stuff now that is unfortunate. Keep in mind, Foreigner has announced that they're done. They're on, I think, the first leg of their farewell tour. Kelly Hansen, who I like. I don't love him. He's not like my favorite singer in the world, but I like him. And he's also done a good job since 2005 helping Mick Jones keep this brand alive. Now, Lou, of course, is going to talk about how Mick isn't showing up and so forth. And I get that. And a lot of the old school fans are upset that they're not going to see Mick Jones out there. But if you want to hear the music of Foreigner, this is still the best way to do it. You got Jeff Pilson on stage as well, who's a very fine musician. So you get Kelly and Jeff, and then you've got a cast of characters who I think are, keeping the thing alive. Now, you can go back and forth all day long. These people aren't immortal, okay? They can't just freeze their vocal on 1985. They can't do it. Because if they could, then we wouldn't have these problems. The story is, of course, that Lou was kicked out of Foreigner, more or less, back in 2004. And I've defended Lou a lot because I didn't like the way he was treated. However, in hindsight, the decision, I think, by Mick Jones was a good decision. Now, some people will disagree because Lou, again, is such a legend that if Lou shows up, even if it doesn't sound like Foreigner from 1981, you're going to still enjoy yourself because you get to see Lou Gramm. And this is the whole balancing act now between the singer who's not the same, but is a legend versus a singer who is closer to the original and is replicating, and maybe too much so, according to Lou Gramm, that he's imitating all the ad libs and vocal licks, whatever those are. And someone will have to explain to me what a vocal lick is. I know what a guitar lick is. Maybe it's like the way you phrase something or you hold something a little bit longer, or something gimmicky that you do when you're singing. That's my guess. But in any event, Mick Jones, I think, made a good decision. In fact, I think it was CBS This Morning profiled Mick Jones a number of years ago and said the remarkable comeback of Mick Jones, because it was. It was very similar to when Arnel Pineda joined Journey, especially in the early days, and people were like, wow, Journey's been revitalized. And Foreigner, to a lesser degree, because here's the truth, more people know who Steve Perry is than who Lou Gramm is, unfortunately. That's just the way the world works. Like, nobody knows who Jimmy Jameson is, and they should. Because in my humble opinion, he's better than both Lou and Steve. Sorry, I had to just put it in there. Anyway, Jimmy sang for Survivor, okay? Died a few years ago, and nobody beats Jimmy Jameson as far as I'm concerned. He's the best, or he was the best. But in any event, so we're going back to this argument that Lou Gramm is bringing here. He was on one of those 80s booze cruise things, and he was interviewed by Mark Goodman. Remember Mark Goodman from MTV? Holy crap, Batman. He's still around. And he's on the 80s cruise, which I guess makes sense. You're going to put Mark Goodman on the cruise. And he was asking Lou Gramm some questions. And Lou is answering in a way, I think, that isn't doing anybody's legacy any good. The fact that they're still calling themselves Foreigner, yet Mick Jones is not there half the time or more than half the time. Yeah, that's kind of a problem because you build a band as a Foreigner with Mick Jones. But here's the deal. There are bands that have been touring with 0 original members for quite a long time. Go check out the Grassroots sometime, right? Go check out the Guess Who. They have the drummer. Okay, all right. But it's a new band and a very different sounding band on top of that. I know Quiet Riot for quite some time had 0 original members. I mean, you can go down a pretty big list. Blood, Sweat, and Tears. How many years have they been touring with 0 original members? So whoever owns the brand, and of course I forgot about the American touring version of the Little River Band as well. Anyway, whoever has the rights to the brand, that's why I thought of LRB, gets to tour under that name. And Lou knows this. He's smart, but he's kind of throwing stones at the entire franchise right now. And again, he's Lou Gramm. He can say what he wants. He goes, and he says some nice things. It's weird because he says one good thing and then he kind of launches into a bit of call it a tirade, but just this thing now where he keeps harping on the same point. He says, there were changes in personnel after that while I was still in, and that was a damn good band too. Okay, so he's actually talking about the band that he was still in. Keep in mind, Mick Jones and Lou Gramm reunited for the 40th anniversary tour, and things seemed really good. That's another aspect of this that I wanted to add, that, okay, so you hung out with these guys for the 40th, and then after the fact, all these complaints surface about the whole thing, when at the time it seemed like everybody was getting along, people were joking, they're having a good time during that tour. But now, they should have just, I'm thinking that Lou probably thought to himself, well, maybe they'll just hang it up after this, because they're not going to be able to top what we did on the 40th anniversary. And people were really happy to see, everybody was happy to see Lou Gramm. All right. But Lou wasn't invited to stay. The original members who had showed up, they weren't invited to stay. This was a special, much more harmonious and interesting, by the way, than the Journey 50th anniversary, which is currently taking place. But anyway, he goes on to say, and Mick's choice to keep it going after there were no original members other than himself, that's his option. I can't quite get, wait a minute. What do you mean he can't quite get that? Well, here's the deal. He's been doing this since 2005. This is my point. I mean, if you're going to complain, I would have hit it pretty hard back then. But here we are in the twilight here in 2023 when Foreigner has announced, hey, we're done. We're all done. And maybe Lou had an effect there. Maybe Mick Jones said, nah, I'm not going to keep this franchise going. Maybe Lou has a point. So maybe Lou should be happy that this band is going away. which I don't think it's, here's why I don't think it's a good thing that Foreigner won't be touring anymore. Because these guys get money from airplay. And every time a band like Foreigner or LRB, or pick a band with a decent catalog, goes to a city, the radio stations, they play their music, there's hype about it. People download the songs, people buy the merchandise. So why would you be throwing cold water on the idea of Foreigner, who must be making everybody additional money by still being out there? Maybe it's it's not the kind of money of the prime years. Sure, that's understandable, but it is a little bit like, what's that expression your mom used to say? Bite your nose off to spite your face a little bit. He goes on, I don't understand how they can be touring with no original members and still call themselves Foreigner, and going on for years like that, because number one, Mick owns the franchise. He owns it. By the way, Lou Gramm was replaced for an album called Unusual Heat. And Lou lately has been making fun of his vocal on the song I Don't Want to Live Without Your Love, which he says he undersang, and it still hit the top 5. Still hit the top 5, which this is very much like the Dennis DeYoung situation in Styx. Like, oh no, another Dennis song hits number 5 or gets into the top 10. I mean, Dennis did it without any of them on Show Me the Way. He did, I mean, JY was there, right? I think the band was there technically, but they had Glenn Burtnick there. It was a different situation, but Tommy wasn't there, and they still hit the top 10. Amazing feat. Going into the early 90s, that's unheard of for a band like Styx at that point, especially since they hadn't been around for a while. So clearly, Mick Jones has a lot of songwriting mojo, and this could be one of those, hey, I don't like these soft ballads. I want to know what love is. There was a lot of controversy that changed the band and changed the direction of the band. If you go back and listen to Agent Provocateur, the album that song comes from, there's a lot of hardcore rock and roll Foreigner material on there. I mean, rockers and ballads. Again, like I say, there's nothing wrong with the occasional ballad or two on an album. And if it makes you lots of money, everybody involved gets money. It's a good thing, you would think. But again, this is hindsight is 2020, Monday morning quarterbacking. I don't like it. Again, Lou can say whatever he wants to say. I hold on to that. If I were to talk to Lou Gramm today, I would say, dude, you can say whatever you want to say, because in your prime, Lou, you were one of the greatest singers in rock history. In your prime. I would emphasize in your prime. One thing I like about what Kelly Hansen is doing now, he's saying, look, I can't keep doing this because it has to be done at a certain level. And in a way, he's indirectly maybe taking a little shot at Lou Gramm. I know Mick Jones felt that after the surgery that Lou didn't sound like he used to. And there's tons of evidence, if you do a before and after, that you can hear that. And he was like, no, we can't go out there like this. We've got to find a singer. Not because he didn't like Lou, although, again, creatively speaking, these two guys were always butting heads on things. And it's too bad. But back in 1990, getting back to that point that I didn't finish, Foreigner replaced Lou Gramm because he wasn't down with those ballads, and he and Mick weren't seeing eye to eye. And a guy by the name of Johnny Edwards sang on an album that completely flopped called Unusual Heat. But if you go back and listen to Unusual Heat, it's a pretty decent Foreigner album. I think it is. I mean, the critics will make fun of it all day long, and they often do when they put those lists of worst to best or best to worst or whatever. That album typically finishes dead last, but go listen to it. I mean, you can't trust the rock media. You know, look, if an album hits the discount bin and you had the music scene changing at the time, and then Lou Gramm puts out his band called Shadow King, which was really good as well, but also flopped. All right, because these two guys should have stayed together. They could have at least made one or two more albums that were really good before the grunge apocalypse hit. They later did get together on an album, I think in like 94 or 95. But at that point, other than one single that went, I think, over to AC radio, most of it was ignored by rock stations because everybody had moved on at that point, which is an old adage you really need to, hit while the iron or strike while the fire is hot, whatever it is. Anyway, so again, asked if he would be interested in making guest appearances with Foreigner on their farewell tour. By the way, Kelly Hansen said the door was always open for Lou. Kelly Hansen said that. But Lou says, I'm not sure. I'm so at peace with where it is now and how it's ended. And we had our 40th. And he basically mentions that if he can't get in there with some of the other older guys who were invited back for the 40th, and I think one of those guys is no longer alive. I think we lost at least one of those guys during the thing-demic, or maybe even prior to that. I can't remember. Anyway, Mark Goodman noted that Gramm had previously performed with Foreigner's current lineup, and Lou said, yes, when they had the reunion tours, I have not gone to any of the shows and guested myself on stage with the new band, just me. I haven't done that. It's always been with members of the original band with me. Yeah, well, I guess that's true. Even the Billy Joel appearance that he made it with Mick Jones. So I guess he just doesn't want to sing with this new band, and he just feels that this band shouldn't be called Foreigner. And look, these guys are quitting. They're on their farewell tour. Kelly Hansen has it right when he says, if I can't do this anymore, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to put people through this. Same thing that Peter Cetera said when he left the scene very quietly. He said, he didn't tour that much or do too many shows, but he basically said, look, if I can't perform at the level that I used to or close to it, and my voice, starts breaking down, people are going to remember me for that and not for all the good stuff. So anyway, it's kind of a feud in a way. It's like they're throwing stones at each other a little bit. I mean, Mick Jones hasn't said anything lately. And again, Lou is saying that he's not in good health, and the band says he is, and he's 78 or 79. And, not everybody can be Donnie Iris, right? The reason I say that is because Donnie Iris just celebrated his 80th birthday last month. Holy crap, Batman. There's footage from a concert he did, basically celebrating his birthday, and it's insane. 80 years old. If I can do what he did at 80, if I can just be walking around and functioning that way, it's whatever he's doing, he needs to send some of that stuff everybody else's way. 80 years old and still doing Aaliyah like it was 1981. All right. This band, kind of like 1981 or the 80s, Hitch a Ride is the name of the album. The band's called Departure. I like it a lot. It's really good. And you should check it out. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Thank you, new subscribers. Thank you, patrons. What else? YouTube members, thank you so much. And I will see you all soon.